Hello, Chris.
Hello, Abby.
You'll see I've come in with glittery mirror balls and a little tabletop mirror ball, which was from my time in Cairns. It was very themed. We're an industry partner this year, and it was such a nice time up there. We get so into these conferences that are really like targeted about marketing and AI, and that's all really super relevant. But this was so much about creativity and just letting the
Uh,
freak flag fly and, really inspirational. And I think it was fun to get up there and just remember why we got into what we do. Like we're not
yeah,
actually in it for metrics and things like that.
yeah,
We're in it because we love ideas and
yeah.
creativity. So
Oh,
that was really fun to remember.
that's awesome.
The Pinterest party, the opening party was just epic. It was out in a sugarcane field. And there was lots of gossip going around of like, you have to wear closed-toed shoes. Is that because of the snakes or what?
Oh
And
gosh.
it was very funny. There was a lot of gossip about why, but it was really epic. I didn't just party, Chris. I did actually go to the sessions and learn
Oh,
some
good.
things. There was a lot of good sessions. I picked 5 key themes that came out
Mm.
because I could be here for hours teaching you all each different talk and delving into them. But I think the first one was probably unsurprisingly, there was a bit of AI chat. And it was really sort of more that we've kind of moving past this AI hype to a bit
Mm.
more of a foundational infrastructure. What can we do when we move away from the shiny generative AI gimmicks to like putting
Hmm.
it into the foundational tech infrastructure, like
Yep.
linking our techs using AI and
Yep.
the creative operations and the transparency and the interoperability as
Yep.
well. And like I think there's been a shift as well from total AI autonomy, the robots are going to do everything, to being like humans need to control it and they need to
Yeah.
make it be better and do better. My favorite quote from that is that AI isn't end to end, it's middle to middle. Humans need to bookend it. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's such a good quote because if we talk to anybody in-house particularly, what they really understand is that messy middle. Like the messy middle is something we are really entrenched in. We know that space. And if we can tidy that up using AI, that's such a powerful tool.
It sounds like the conversation up there is very similar to what we've just found in our foundational AI for in-house agencies maturity study. As you know, we put some research out into the market a couple of months ago now around the APAC region in-house and hybrid agency community and just tried to get a better understanding of what are people actually doing with AI. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of claimed work, but what are people actually doing? And the report will come out in the next week or so. But the short story is AI has reached full penetration. Like everyone's using it for something. But what you said, which is it hasn't really penetrated the workflows and the operational side of things, is really true. So we found something like 98, nearly 100% of marketing teams were using AI, but really for singular tasks, copywriting, design, image creation, some video creation, but almost none had integrated it into their workflows and operations. So, that's the next step, is that march up the maturity curve to go from it's a gimmick and it's an experiment to it's actually fully integrated and operationalized in our business.
And
That seems to be the topic.
I love that change because it really gives the in-house advantage, homegrown advantage here. We live inside the brand's data tech ecosystem. We know the IT team. I think that the top hiring people in this space are going to be those people that can look at a problem and go, okay, this is what you're doing 20 times a day. It's a waste
Yeah.
of your time. Let me
Yeah.
automate it for you. Like
How
those
can
sorts
I
of
how
like,
can I save you that
yeah.
time? And also, it's not just about time saving. It's about eliminating some of the human error that comes through things. If you're automating it, we ran the iHack Awards not too long ago, and we saw, from our friends at Optus, they've built their own incredible media automation platform, media operations platform, which is all about simple things like invoicing and reconciliation, but taking the human error out of that and saving them hours and hours every week of kind of human administration and allowing that team to focus more on the strategic work, which is everybody wants to do that.
Yeah. And then I think what my second takeaway was there's operating at 2 speeds. And it's a conversation we have time and time again about long-term distinctive brand platforms versus short-term, agility to react to cultural trends. The marketing split is between long and short and brand and performance and, all of those things. It's not a new conversation, but it came up again. And I think it's because people can feel the shift of maybe we can do both now that we're automating some things and maybe we can balance that back out again. And I think everybody felt the pressure of the current economic vibes and the world vibes, and everybody was like, oh, I've got to deliver now, but it just kept coming back to, but you've got to be a brand that matters as well. I think we as an in-house people, we have the capability to really naturally excel at long-term brand equity, but we often get bogged down by the sort of need to turn stuff around quickly, and we're the people that catch the urgent sort of flaming balls rather than focusing on those big brand pieces. I remember last year when we were in the States, I was listening to Uber chat and they were like, we would just never consider putting our brand stuff out because we know our brand, we are our brand, we live our brand. We get people to do our product stuff because we use Uber, not like Uber people. We need people to look at it from a non-Uber perspective when using the product. I was like, that's fascinating. But it's that thing of, we need to remember we can and should be owning brand in a lot more ways to help with that long-term brand building.
Yeah. I mean, that long and short, brand versus performance debate's been going on in marketing for as long as I can remember. And the simple answer is you got to do both. Can't have one or the other. You got to do both. And people have been banging that drum for a long time. But you're right. Sometimes in-house teams, they almost get painted into you're here to do fast reactive stuff, and then we'll brief out the big important campaigns and the big brand building stuff. And you're right, like the in-house teams do have a strong inherent knowledge and proximity to the brand, so they should have a role to play in that brand building work. There's also a balance between the creative diversity that you can get from working with wonderful partners as well. So I think like everything, there's it's a gray area, right? Or it's a little bit of both, right?
What's that like famous little taco girl that goes, why can't we have both? Like that every Australian quotes at me every time we have tacos that we need to get in New Zealand. But I think it's a balance. It's why can't we do both? Why can't we, have an in-house agency that operates at two speeds with like big brand stuff, but that we partner with externals on to mark our homework and check our working and make sure that we're getting creative diversity, but then also have little speed cells in your team that can, I love that.
So what often happens in in-house teams is they have this grand plan and then something in the business changes and they get this last minute brief and it's like, drop everything and work on this, and it kind of breaks all the processes, it breaks all the ways of working, and everyone gets kind of put out and deprioritized. And you've got to kind of plan to be reactive. You got to know that that's going to come. Every year you're going to get a few of those kind of drop everything and just deal with this briefs, and you almost have to build in, when we're working with our partners on this, we build in what we call an express lane process, which is like once in a while you get to press this emergency button that says we need this quick, so here's how you can run this up the chain and get it approved and out the door without completely breaking all the processes that you've designed. So, there's a way to do that if you think about it and plan it in.
It's so funny because I always I grew up as a producer, film producer, and I always used to say to the people that I was talking to about it, the best people that do that sort of work, you are a planner by heart, but you plan for the unplannable. And that's what, like, you have to, that these things are going to come. They come every year, like these two or three things that stuff everything up. And so it's like, you need to find a way to build that into your processes because it is one of the greatest superpowers of in-house agencies that you can drop everything and move quickly, right? That should be something we celebrate, but not to the point where you can't do the other stuff. Let me wow you with one that is much more in your space than mine. The attention recession, which was a big conversation about memorable versus measurable. Just the ability of the data that's at our hands and our ability now, especially with AI, to actually look at the data and read the data and figure out what it means, is that we've just got obsessed with optimizing metrics because they exist. And it's really overcomplicating systems and going too far. I mean, don't get me wrong, I believe in data. I believe in like feeding it back in an improvement, but it has led to a drop in like creative memorability. And there was a lot of ones around that. Internal stakeholders love dashboard metrics and instant ROI. And again, like the speed and agility, it's one of our superpowers. It's something we can do, but you just you got to put a little bracket around it to like make sure that you don't squeeze the emotional magic out of these internal creative briefs, because
Yeah, that word magic kind of floats around the industry a little bit. It's always that kind of left brain, right brain, art versus science kind of thing. And the reality is marketing, and in particular commercial creativity, it exists in that messy middle in between the left brain and the right brain, and that science, the numbers and the art. And I had a really interesting conversation with a guy named Brent Smart, who many of our listeners will be aware of. Brent's the CMO at Telstra, and has just come off the back of kind of really transforming that huge iconic business into a creative powerhouse. And they won a bunch of Lions, including a Grand Prix last year. Like, he's probably the most awarded creative leader in this part of the world, maybe certainly up there in the CMO ranks. And we talked a lot about how did he do that, and we talked about building a creative culture that has creative judgment at the heart of it, decision making. And one of the things that you're going to start to see, this comes back to the AI thing that we were talking about, like back in the day when I was coming up, you had to be careful with what you were pulling the trigger on to produce, because it costs a lot of money to produce the work. But these days, and certainly more into the future, the production of the work and the content will become much lower cost and much faster. But that just means you're going to get more kind of bland, middling work out there, right? And the brands that will cut through, and we've all heard the word AI slop and bland, blanding and those kind of terms. The brands that will cut through are the ones that know what work is going to stand out and why it's going to stand out and what it means for their brand. And that comes from having creative judgment as a skill in your business. And we talked a lot about how, sometimes people often talk about that as that's this magical phenomenon that happens in a little black box and only creatives know how to do it. And it's not really that. I mean, you can teach people creative judgment. There's a way to do that. And there's a methodology. And there are businesses like my old company, AB InBev, who have kind of systemized that. And, I know Brent took some inspiration from that as well. So there's definitely a way to teach your team and your business how to make great creative decisions that take a little bit of the magic and the art and put some rigor around it, so that there is a bit more judgment based into that. And then you can measure whether the work is getting better over time, which it should be.
There was one talk around, can you teach taste? Can you grow taste? How do you keep your taste and your creativity flourishing? And the answer is just like, get out of the house, go look at things, engage with culture, be a nerd, curious about everything, read the most random articles, just drown yourself in culture and interesting things and what people are doing, and counterculture as well. Let's not keep it as to what's cool, but what's just out there and being wacky. That's where inspiration strikes, and that's where how you can build your taste and flex that muscle, because it is a muscle. And I loved the thought that like optimized boredom is still boring. Put something to mind that I really want to leave internal teams with, because I think it's really important. Like, weird is good, right? Fun, crazy ideas live and breathe. And I think that sometimes when we live and breathe our brand so much, we sort of can lose sight of being silly. And like, if the big giant gorilla selling chocolate, or any of your favorite ones, Chris, from Liquid Death, teach us that like weird can be fantastic. And you've just, I think in-house teams need to like, our strength is that we live and breathe the brand, but you have to think outside the brand sometimes to just find the kooky, because weird is great. And it was a great talk from Amy Keane from Good Shout in the UK. It was weirdism, the revolutionary act of not being normal. It really spoke to my soul. I think about 3 different people told me that you should be up on stage with them, maybe. And I was like, yes. But it really spoke to me. I was like, yeah, weird is cool. Like, it's a really, and I think that's something that in-house teams need to constantly keep themselves accountable for, like get out and be weird.
I think weird comes back to something that will catch people's attention and cut through when everyone's got the same tools and tech and kind of ways of working, and everything looks pretty similar. So how do you stand out and cut through when, we talked about attention a minute ago, but like there is more content being produced every day than people can consume. People can't watch it, So how do you get people to actually pay attention to what you're trying to say? And just doing the same bland old messaging that everyone else is doing isn't going to do that. And that's why you do have to be a little bit, you got to stand out, take a creative risk, and do something that will stand out of the crowd.
If you've built the trust with your internal teams, that's also a place where you might be able to play in the weird a bit more because you've built that trust. But I think circling back to something you said as well about the AI slop and, production's going to get cheaper. It's also, you can do stuff that's weirder. Like, we want to film Matthew McConaughey on the moon saying, all right, all right, all right. I mean, hard production shoot, expensive production shoot. But with AI and like, you never know what you can do. You could put, him on his head on a gorilla body. I don't know. Like there's the AI has allowed even more levels of creativity if you just harness it in the right ways and use it as a tool for thinking outside the crazy.
You still have to have the underlying kind of creative platform that fits with what the brand's trying to do. But once you've got that, then it should free you up to kind of go through all these different kind of interesting and unique executions that will hopefully cut through. So yeah, absolutely.
And this is one for you. I mean, despite the fact that you still look about 21, you have been in marketing for some time. And there was talking a lot about the death of the traditional marketing playbook. Audience discovery, search habits, traditional attribution models, they're fracturing with the new medium model. And the old agency client handoff playbook is starting to break apart. And it was just a real interesting one around, okay, like this there's a new change coming and we need to kind of get around it. You and I, we're big fans of external partners and friends, and agencies surviving and thriving is something that's core to, I think, our industry being great. But there is a strain that we're seeing out there, consolidated, highly connected in-house model. It does sort of, we want to show that superpower because, the fragmentation of media means the old brief, pitch, execute, siloed approach is sort of dying.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes I react to when people are going, "Oh, the death of the marketing playbook," and I go, I've got Mark Ritson in the back of my head going, "That's bullshit." Like it's the same. The people are the same. The way they consume products and media and the way you can build brands, it's all the same. It's maybe got a little bit of a different skin and there's some different channels. It is more complicated than it was 15 years ago, right? And absolutely, and probably one of the big fundamental shifts that's coming is you've got to now build your brand in a way that builds credibility within the AI large language models, because people are moving towards that for search and they're starting to advertise, and you're going to have to start selling to the AI, right? That'll be interesting. That's a very different proposition than selling to the humans. So, we had somebody come in and talk about generative engine optimization in our iHack session not too long ago, and that was fantastic because a lot of brands are starting to do that. Build trust and credibility with the LLM, so they are surfaced as results when people are asking about insurance or cars or whatever. That's, I think, an interesting and unique challenge that the industry hasn't had to deal with before. But when they say, "Oh, the death of the marketing playbook," I kind of go, come on, like it's not. We're still trying to influence people's attitudes and behaviors and give them reasons to buy and take away reasons not to buy, and all the same fundamental strategic tasks are there. So
I specifically put that one in just to see how far I could get your eyes to roll back, because I agree with you. I think we as marketers and creatives, we can sometimes overcomplicate stuff. Like we're still just trying to connect and help people see the benefit of our product, and the death of the playbook, everything's changed. It's like, let's just calm down a wee bit. But I knew you would have strong opinions on that one. And last one is the commercial reality and full funnel accountability was one I wrote down, and that sounds incredibly sexy. But you know how much I love commercials and all of that sort of stuff. Like I think that's partly of the reason that in-house came into being is around the commercials of the growing funnel and what having to do more with less. I'm loving the change to more creative, but it's still a fundamental thing that nobody, like, that hasn't changed. People are still saying tightening budgets, rising expectations from leadership, conversations that were grounded in commercial reality, linking creativity directly to full funnel business outcomes. Like I think, again, with the data that's available to us and the smart operational people that can sit down and look at commercial modeling and all that sort of stuff, it is something that is we have to look at a bit more. And it's that thing of don't go too deep into it, because you need to have space to play, because that's what we do as we play. But it is definitely that commercial conversation and linking it to business is definitely a big conversation. And I think that's great for in-house agencies, because I mean, we're still too frequently viewed as a cost-saving production house. But if we can leverage this conversation that's happening about commercial, show our commercial, ability, and the fact that we can become a strategic business growth partner, I think that is a really exciting space to play. But we'll have to really grab hold of that, because it can become a race to the bottom, and you know, if you're not careful, of the cheapest possible outcomes. But if you can show value, that conversation changes.
Absolutely. I mean, there's something like really true in what you're saying there. Like there is budget pressure, commercial pressure on many businesses. You know, the economy is a bit soft at the moment, and you know, you're hearing a lot about sort of businesses going through tough times. And so, you know, as an in-house agency leader in the industry, you have this opportunity to get inside the business and get really close to the impact that the work you're doing is having on the business and the brand, and that's very different to the proximity and the access you have when you're at an external agency. You know, we talk to lots of in-house agency leaders and lots of people who have moved from agencies in-house, and they're like, I didn't know how much data they're having and how much they're measuring the impact of this sort of stuff. I just kind of thought, if I do a cool ad and it cuts through and gets me lots of likes or engagement on TikTok or Instagram, that I did my job. And you know, it's incumbent upon anybody who's working inside a business to understand how that business works. How do they sell? How do they make money? How do they make profit? You know, and you know, we think there's a real role for the in-house agencies to play to get closer to that and actually do the work to join up what you're doing, your creative work and the assets you're producing, with the impact of those things in the market, whether that's on brand health or brand attitudes, or actually directly on sales and revenue and profit. You know, there's lots of ways to track and measure this. And, you know, we can certainly, maybe we should have an iHack session on joining up, you know, the work that an in-house agency does with the impact on a business, because I feel like it's a huge opportunity for everybody working in those teams to become a more commercially rounded operator. And how much more valuable are you as a person and an operator when you know the impact that you're having on the business? I just think there's something really important there.
I often say, as an in-house agency leader, your role should be your people, making sure that they are firing on all the cylinders, they have what they need to succeed, and they're in a creatively excellent zone and space to create. But your other job should be know the people that work in finance, know your sales team, understand how you fit into the broader ecosystem. Because when marketing becomes a cost, it's an easy thing to cut. When marketing can be shown to be a growth driver, I always say to people, oh, you're not a cost center and you're not a profit center. So sometimes CFOs might find you a very confusing space. You're a cost avoidance center. And that can be fantastic. But then you also need to put an extra layer on top of, I'm also a profit driver. If you know, like if sales can do what they do better because I've delivered them what they need to sell, then you know, I'm directly impacting business results. And I think it's very hard to disagree with the value of a team of people who can show that. Like, the information data is your power. So I always say, when you get into a new business, go seek out your finance buddy, find your person that can help you figure out how all of those systems work and how you can track things and measure. Make friends with insights and what's happening with your brand health. In fact, try and fold them in as closely to your in-house agency as possible. That's why we started an insights team, because I think they are crucial to in-house teams in iHack. But and then also just get to know your salespeople, understand what is tipping the scales for them. What are they hearing? Like they're a real. I think Yui does it fantastically. That their marketing in-house team are really close to the people that are on the phones, sort of
Yeah.
talking. Because
Yeah.
that is your front door essentially. Like it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
such a smart play. And it comes from being really understanding where you play in the ecosystem of a business. Be a business-minded person running a creative shop. Great.
Yeah. I mean, you remember Ange came to our summit last year and told the whole story about how Yui, as a challenger brand, have kind of built and leveraged their incredible in-house creative and media team to drive growth, and that connection to the business and the frontline sales team, the call center. That's getting to know how your business makes money. That's it. That's the bottom line. How does your business make money? How do you convert all the creative-y stuff that we're doing and even the media dollars we're spending to selling another can of Liquid Death or another can of Coke or another car or another whatever? That's the job.
Is this your new marketing playbook, Chris? Is this the brand new one?
Yeah.
But yeah,
not that we need another new marketing playbook.
So Cairns Crocs was great. It really refreshes the mind on like how to be creative. I love the fact that they have talks up there that are like, just how to push through and resilience and all of those things that are slightly off-piste, but they really make you, I don't know, remind yourself why you're in this realm, because none of us got into it for spreadsheets. Well, some of us did. But, we got in.
Speak for yourself. I like a good spreadsheet.
Excel, pivot table. But yeah, so it was really good. And so, yeah, that's Cairns Crocs for me. It was fun. It's fun to see all the hatchlings up there as well, the next wave of cool people coming through. It always gives you hope for the future.
It's a nice vibe. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. It sounds like it was a great session. There was some cool new announcements up there. I was talking to my friend Henry Innes from Mutinex yesterday, and he launched the self-serve version of their platform up there as well, which sounds really amazing. And I think there was some other kind of relatively large announcements up there. So that's awesome that business is getting behind it and announcing new cool stuff as well.
Yeah, it was very cool. Sometimes it feels a bit like just a fun adventure day out for adults. Like our friends at Nexon did a recovery IV drips, which I've never had in my life, but it was very fun. I felt very American doing it.
I saw that. You sent me a picture of that and I went, oh my God, that is, coming from the booze industry, you could never promote like a hangover recovery pod, because that's promoting the consumption. But anyway,
that's not a hangover recovery. It was just
sure it wasn't.
Well, you sat there with a smoothie and you're getting your B12. I felt very wholesome. And I didn't really go out late night before, so I was just getting extra hydration. And then I went to Prawn Star, which I've never been to, which is
that's fun. That boat that does all the fresh seafood.
Our friends at Play put us up there, and I was sitting there with Kat from Canva, and we were just laughing because we were just like, the food kept coming, and I've never seen so much seafood in my life, and it was just wild. But I do love seafood.
Me too. Making me jealous now, all the food you ate up there.
Well, I'm going tuna fishing next week, so if I get any, I know.
Get some pictures. Where are you going?
Portland.
Oh, beautiful. Amazing.
I literally fly back from Mumbrella, which we'll talk about in a second, and I have to either get straight in the car and drive down or do the 2 a.m. get up and drive down. So we'll see how I go. I'm going to finish up with a couple of the cool jobs on the go. There's a bunch out there, and I think it's important to see the cool things that's happening in our industry. So there's a brand designer role for HCF. Then there's a head of ad operations for Coles, which is pretty cool, and creative services and ops manager for Australian Red Cross Lifeblood, which is a nice one, a good chance to do some cool stuff and do some good. And I think Canva's looking for a bunch of good roles as well, so I'll post those.
Some great new in-house roles, so keep an ear to the ground on those. There's plenty of people hiring.
So that's all for today. I mean, it's just always fun to hang out and chat with you, but we'll have to do the same thing week after next, because we're going to Mumbrella next week, which is...
Yeah, I'm excited. That'll be great.
I love Mumbrella 360. We're an industry partner this year, and I'm really proud of the fact that APAC is partnering with all of these great events, because I think for so long we were focused on building a community for our brands, for in-house teams, and now it's time to make sure that those teams stay connected with their family on the agency side. You know what I mean? So it's making sure that we're connected.
I love that,
because it's important.
Yeah. And if you're in the iHack family and you're getting along to Mumbrella, come and say hi. We'd love to catch up. We'll go and have a beer or a glass of wine or a coffee or something like that. That sounds like fun.
Or if you're going on your Todd and you want someone to sit in a session with, hit me up. It's always fun to sit with someone and chat about the insights. So, yeah.
All right. Well, welcome back. I'm glad you enjoy it. Have fun fishing. You have to send me some pictures. I'm very jealous.
Chris and I are fishing nerds. We always have been.
I got to book in a trip soon.
Chris, maybe we need to go for a strategy day.
I know. We do.
All right. Well, be well,
All right,
and I
good on
will
ya.
see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.